I think my husband, Zhangzhen, is having an affair. What's even more shocking is that he had the audacity to bring his lover home. This discovery feels like a hook with thorns piercing directly into my heart, leaving traces of blood and flesh when pulled out. Last week, my mom was hospitalized, and I took care of her for a week. When I returned home, exhausted, I headed straight to the bathroom, wanting to take a hot shower and then sleep peacefully. Taking care of a patient is indeed exhausting. The warm water cascaded down, relieving the fatigue built up over the past days. Suddenly, something felt off. The shower head was in the wrong position, too close to the top of my head. Normally, I set it about 20 centimeters above my head, but now it felt almost entangled in my hair. I'm 165 centimeters tall, and Zhangzhen is 185 centimeters. With our daughter away at school, there's no reason for the shower head to be lowered unless someone else was here. The only answer, Zhangzhen brought someone home, and they took a shower. I don't want to jump to conclusions about Zhangzhen, but the undeniable facts cruelly reveal a truth. After the shower, I couldn't find any peace with these suspicions tormenting me. In the evening, Zhangzhen returned, and I calmly served the meal. He seemed surprised. Is Mom out of the hospital? Why didn't you tell me? I could have picked you both up. It's been so busy lately, I didn't even have time to visit her. Of course, you're busy with your little affair, busy bringing her home to our bed. Who cares about anyone else? I mumbled in my mind but smiled on my face. Mom is fine, just her usual ailment. I knew you were busy, so I just arranged for a car to take her back. You do your work, don't worry. Dad can take care of her at home. Zhangzhen smiled. Finish your meal and go get some rest. I'll take care of the cleanup. The sun must be rising from the west. Someone who wouldn't even pick up a fallen oil bottle is volunteering to do housework? Unless he feels guilty about something and wants to compensate or cover it up. Flattery without a cause is usually a sign of wrongdoing. My name is Gumin, 40 years old, married to Zhangzhen for 15 years, and we have a 14-year-old daughter, Cici. Over a decade ago, after graduating from college, I worked as a nurse in a hospital in our county. Zhangzhen, a male nurse, was my colleague. Nursing is a demanding and tiring job, and being of the same age, Zhangzhen and I quickly found a connection. We went from being colleagues to being a couple. Despite the perception that male nurses are in demand, there was still a subtle disdain from some people. Why would a healthy young man choose a job that involves serving people, is dirty and tiring, and has no upward mobility? My parents shared this attitude. They strongly opposed my relationship with Zhangzhen. Two nurses, busy and not earning much, who would support the family and take care of the child? But I was in the bliss of love, unable to heed my parents' advice. In my eyes, Zhangzhen was tall, handsome, eloquent, and competent in his job. Why couldn't we have a good life together? I was determined to marry him, and my parents, unable to change my mind, reluctantly agreed. Both families pooled their resources and bought a small 2-bedroom house in the county. We got married. After marriage, I realized that despite Zhangzhen's outward appearance, he was a mess in his personal life, lazy and neglectful of his responsibilities. He casually tossed his dirty clothes onto the bed, claiming he would wash them when there's a pile. I had to remind him 3 to 5 times to take a shower. After meals, he'd push his bowl onto the sofa and play with his phone. He never folded the blanket. As someone who cares about the details of life, I couldn't tolerate a messy living environment. So, I ended up washing his clothes and shoes, and every day after work, I started a thorough cleaning. Over time, I couldn't stand it anymore. After working tirelessly at the hospital every day, I had to come home to a pile of household chores, while he acted like a carefree boss. Can you blame me for venting? His response to my complaints was unreasonable. You insisted on doing it. The bed still needs sheets, why fold them? Clothes can go in the washing machine when there's enough, no need to wash every day. Mop the floor once a week, what's the big deal if there's a bit of dust on the shoes? Why polish them to a shine every day? They're not mirrors. Listen to this nonsense, a complete excuse for his laziness. Although it was tough and tiring, I could manage the household chores for both of us. But after our daughter was born, the newborn's needs and the heavy housework left me exhausted. After maternity leave, even though my mother-in-law came from the countryside to help with the baby, she was too old to handle household chores. Unable to stand a messy house, I had to hire a part-time cleaner. But over time, it became too much for both of us. With our meager salaries, paying the mortgage, buying formula and diapers, covering living expenses, and dealing with various social obligations, along with the cleaner's wages, our wallets often ran dry before the next paycheck. My mother-in-law criticized me openly and subtly, sometimes saying I was wasteful and couldn't manage life, and other times suggesting I hired a cleaner because I didn't want her to work. Reluctantly, I had to quit the cleaning service. After our daughter started kindergarten, I thought my mother-in-law would have more time to help with household chores. However, she said now that the child was in school, she didn't want to stay and face my displeasure. She insisted on returning to her hometown. I was speechless. I had always been careful around her, doing chores she wouldn't do without complaining. And now she claims not to want to stay because of my attitude? Fine, let her go. If she insists on leaving, I can work a bit harder, reducing the tension between a mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. At this time, Zhangzhen also felt that supporting a family as a nurse was too demanding, so he quit and became a pharmaceutical representative. His new job made him even busier. Sometimes, I wouldn't see him for days, while I had to juggle work, take care of our child, and manage the household, barely having time to catch my breath. Fortunately, Zhangzhen's hard work began to pay off, and the money he brought home increased. Our life improved. Seeing me overwhelmed, Zhangzhen suggested I quit my job and focus on taking care of the family, leaving the earning to him. With these words, I felt I hadn't married the wrong person. The years of hardship and effort seemed worth it. Honestly, although Zhangzhen is careless and neglects details, he has treated me well. Otherwise, I wouldn't have defied my parents to marry him. Even after marriage, he never forgot anniversaries or holidays, always giving me gifts. He never questioned my spending, allowing me to buy whatever I wanted. But now, after just a few good years, he's acting up? Is this what people often refer to as being satiated and harboring desires? The thought of Zhangzhen possibly being intimate with another woman in our bed makes me nauseous. After dinner, Zhangzhen was in the kitchen cleaning up, and I threw all the bed sheets into the washing machine. Zhangzhen seemed displeased. Do you have to be so disgusted with me? Why wash the bed sheets so late? Besides, where can we hang them to dry at this hour? Then hang them on the balcony for now. It's been a week, it's time to wash them. As I answered Zhangzhen, a sense of suspicion crept into my mind. Why does he care so much about washing bed sheets? He knows I'm meticulous about cleanliness. Isn't this a sign of guilt? Lying in bed at night, I couldn't help but ask, while I was away these past 2 days, did someone come to our house? In the darkness, I distinctly felt Zhangzhen's body tremble slightly. No, what's wrong? Oh, nothing. I just felt that the shower head was too low. With only you at home, it seemed a bit off. Oh, that? It was me. I used it to rinse the floor after my shower yesterday. I didn't pay much attention when hanging it back, probably hung it too low. Zhangzhen pretended everything was normal, but I could hear the panic and evasion in his words. Does the recently washed floor need another rinse? Even if it does, there's a faucet above the shower head, much more convenient than using the shower. Besides, he's not the kind of person who cares about cleanliness. Moreover, for a 185 centimeters tall person, casually hanging it wouldn't be this low. It was evident that he was lying. A sense of panic and unease pervaded me. What if Zhangzhen is really having an affair? What should I do? Cry and quarrel with him, confront the other woman? Or pretend to leave gracefully, giving them space? To be honest, I couldn't do either. I don't have the ability to confront the other woman and a deceitful man like a shrew. Even if I could, it wouldn't be effective. It might make the man even more disdainful. But I also can't bring myself to give up the home I've worked so hard to build over these many years. I've managed this household for more than a decade, going through hardships with Zhangzhen. Now that we've finally improved, why should I let another woman reap the benefits, spending my money and sleeping with my man? I thought all night and finally made up my mind. I can't engage in an unprepared battle. It's better to be prepared in advance and take the initiative. While Zhangzhen was at work, I had cameras installed in the bedroom and living room. Then I told him that my dad was getting old, and my mom needed help, so I would go to my mom's house to take care of her for a few days. At my mom's house, I was restless. I repeatedly checked the video playback on my phone, hoping to find something and at the same time praying for nothing. 3 days passed without any suspicious activities. I couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Maybe I was just being paranoid. After all, suspecting infidelity just because the shower head was in the wrong place was a bit far-fetched. Compared to the possibility of Zhangzhen cheating, I'd rather believe that I was overthinking it. Maybe I was bothering myself unnecessarily. On the fourth day, after serving breakfast to my mom, I prepared to go back home to get some fresh clothes. I was planning to stay for 2 more days, as our daughter Cece would be returning on the weekend. However, unexpectedly, this casual move led me to discover Zhangzhen's secret. As I entered the bedroom to grab some clothes, I passed by the study. Zhangzhen's computer was still on, and I absent-mindedly clicked the mouse, revealing Zhangzhen's WeChat chat interface. Perhaps because I wasn't at home, he was unconcerned and had forgotten to shut down the computer. As I scrolled through the chat records, my heart grew colder and more shattered with each revelation. It felt like countless knives were churning inside my chest, and suddenly, a river of blood flowed. The explicit nature of the conversations shattered my understanding. I had never imagined that the man I had loved for so many years, the father of my daughter, could have such a disgusting and vile side behind my back. One sentence caught my attention: "Don't come to my place in the future. Since the last time you took a shower, she's become suspicious. Better be more discreet." I chuckled. No wonder these days had been so quiet, the vigilance was remarkably high. If I hadn't impulsively asked about the showerhead, I might have witnessed an explicit live broadcast for free. I opened the WeChat profile and checked the third party's moments. She was a young woman, not exceptionally beautiful, but definitely had an alluring figure, with ample curves that could capture any man's imagination. Compared to me, a woman in her 40s, she could undoubtedly bring more excitement and stimulation to Zhangzhen. No wonder he fell for her so easily. I captured these chat records with my phone and then walked out, feeling a heavy burden on my shoulders. Staying at my mom's for 2 more days, I returned after the weekend. After dropping Cece off at school, I decided to confront Zhangzhen. If he showed a good attitude and was willing to end things with the other woman and return to the family, I would consider giving him a chance. However, this chance wouldn't come easily, he had to pay the corresponding price. When he returned in the evening, I sent those chat records to his phone and asked him coldly who the woman was, what their relationship was, and when it all began. Zhangzhen's expression changed instantly. I guessed he regretted forgetting to shut down the computer at that moment. Zhangzhen said the girl's name was Wang Fang, a post-95 generation, working as a waitress in a restaurant. Zhangzhen frequently took clients to that restaurant, and they became acquainted over time. Feeling sorry for her, he asked the restaurant owner to help her change positions, and she ended up as a cashier at the front desk. So, in gratitude, she offered herself to you? I stared at Zhangzhen, asking coldly. Zhangzhen remained silent, his taciturn response adding fuel to my anger. Speak up, what are you planning to do? I tried to control my emotions, but the burning rage in my heart almost consumed me. Subconsciously, I thought Zhangzhen would kneel down, apologize tearfully, and beg for my forgiveness. That way, I could occupy the moral high ground and demand various compromises and sacrifices from him. However, I never expected his next words to be like a thunderbolt, shattering all my pride and self-esteem. Zhangzhen looked up at me, a mixture of timidity and determination in his eyes. If you can't stand it, then, let's get a divorce. All these years, the money I earned is in your hands. You decide how much to give me. The child was raised by you, so take her. I'll provide alimony. What? I could hardly believe my ears. He's the one who cheated, the one who made a mistake. Why did he have the audacity to suggest a divorce? If anyone was going to propose it, it should be me. Moreover, he had already planned how to divide assets and settle the child's situation. It seemed like he had carefully considered this. Over the years, he had given me quite a bit of money, more than what I, a nurse, would expect. If I hadn't discovered his affair, I would have thought that was his entire income. Now, the harsh reality shattered my understanding. The money he handed over to me was definitely not his entire income. How much secret money he kept, I had no way of knowing. At 40 years old, without education and work experience, disconnected from society for over a decade, if I divorced, how would I support myself and my daughter? My parents were aging, and I couldn't become their reliance. For this family, for his success, I gave up my growth and sacrificed my youth. Why did he have the right to abandon me like a pair of old shoes? At this moment, I felt like the pitiful and pathetic Luo Zijuan from my earlier years. Zhangzhen's words pierced my heart like countless icy blades, leaving me cold and in pain. Tears streamed uncontrollably down my face. Trembling, I bit my lip, and the chill emanated from between my lips and teeth. Divorce? Never. As long as I'm alive, you won't have it easy. She will forever be the other woman. A hint of tenderness flashed in Zhangzhen's eyes. He took a step forward, embracing my shoulders. Don't get agitated. Sit down first. Let's discuss whether or not to divorce. My heart condition made my heartbeat accelerate when I got too emotional, lips turning purple. Perhaps to prevent me from getting overly agitated, Zhangzhen softened his attitude. I had no interest in his feigned concern. I pushed his hand away with a sudden burst of hysterical yelling, "Get away, remove your dirty hands, don't touch me, I find it disgusting." Zhangzhen hesitated for a moment and awkwardly withdrew his hand. He fetched some of the medicines I regularly took and placed a glass of water on the coffee table. "Take your medicine first, calm down. If you feel uncomfortable, give me a call." Then, he grabbed his coat and left the house. With a loud bang of the door, I slumped onto the sofa, the seemingly indestructible fortress crumbling into ruins in an instant. Zhangzhen didn't return the whole night, and I stayed awake until dawn. At 6 a.m., Zhangzhen came back, bearing breakfast for me. He explained that last night, to allow both of us to cool down, he spent the night at the office. He asked me not to overthink it. In my heart, I sneered. How could I not overthink it? The temptation of that soft and tender body outside was much greater than my aging self. Surprisingly, Zhangzhen didn't mention divorce again. I hated my own humility and lack of backbone. I secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Afterward, Zhangzhen continued to treat me and our daughter exceptionally well. Of course, he remained busy, even busier than before, often staying away for 3 to 5 days or even a week. But every time he returned, he brought gifts for me and our daughter. Whatever requests I made, he never refused. For instance, I wanted to buy a massage chair for my mom and a new phone for my dad. He fulfilled these requests without uttering a word of objection. So, even though I knew he wasn't entirely faithful outside, as long as most of his money and heart were at home, and he didn't bring up divorce again, I chose not to dwell on it. I marveled at my own transformation. In terms of loyalty in relationships, I used to have no room for even a grain of sand. Now, the Sahara Desert stood before me, and I could pretend not to see it. Unfortunately, this might be the compromise of the weak towards life. The marriage certificate was my guarantee for survival, my capital for sustenance. As long as I held onto it tightly, I could pretend to be happy. Behind the scenes, I checked Zhangzhen's phone. There were no traces of any wrongdoing in the chat records. I figured he deleted them so cleanly to show a certain attitude, he didn't want to hurt me. As long as I didn't press too hard, I could continue living this way. It was ironic how the one who made the mistake was him, yet I ended up compromising and demeaning myself like this. We tacitly avoided discussing the past, and life continued to pass by smoothly under this false appearance of tranquility. Until Zhangzhen's mistress, Wang Feng, showed up at our doorstep. It was a Monday, and I had just dropped Cici off at school when I received a call. "Excuse me, are you Gumin?" "I'm Wang Feng. I would like to talk to you." My heart tightened instantly. Were mistresses nowadays so audacious? I hadn't even started confronting her, and she dared to come provoke me. Anger, shame, and panic rushed towards me. I took a deep breath, telling myself to remain calm. I was the legal wife, I must not lose the upper hand and momentum. Wang Feng didn't fit the image of a seductive mistress I had in mind. She wasn't wearing makeup, had her hair pulled up in a high ponytail, and her thin face carried a hint of fatigue, resembling a fresh graduate just out of university. My heart sank. She was the type Zhangzhen liked. Back then, he said my natural, makeup-free innocence had captured him. As soon as she saw me, Wang Feng burst into tears. "Sister, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have ruined your marriage, and I shouldn't have come to see you. But I really had no other choice. Zhangzhen and I are genuinely in love." Ridiculous. A mistress had the audacity to talk about true love in front of the legal wife. I coldly interrupted her. "Don't call me sister, we're not that close. If you're truly in love with Zhangzhen, go beg him to marry you. What do you want from me?" She looked up at me, tears welling up in her big eyes. "I've tried everything, crying, making a scene, even attempting suicide. But he won't budge. He says he can't divorce and marry me. I admit I broke the rules by seeking marriage after love, but I have no choice. I've been pregnant 3 times. If I lose this baby, the doctor says I might never be able to have children again. Sister, I'm begging you, please divorce him. I was stunned. Zhangzhen didn't want a divorce? How was this completely different from his attitude in front of me? After a moment, it dawned on me. Zhangzhen had no intention of divorcing. He wanted to have the best of both worlds. He initiated the idea of divorce to suppress me and used my rebellious mentality to keep me from pushing for it. He also aimed to make me turn a blind eye to his extramarital affair. And he succeeded. In the end, it was his financial capability and my vulnerability that gave him the confidence. I never knew the man sleeping beside me had such a deep cunning. What hurt me even more was Wang Feng's mention of the third pregnancy. They must have been together for a considerable time, and I was completely oblivious. Suppressing the pain in my heart, I put on a show of strength. I did suggest a divorce before. He insisted on not divorcing me. If you have any self-awareness, leave now and cut your losses. I have records of the money he spent on you. It's our joint property, and I can easily reclaim it. With that, I turned and left, a strange sense of satisfaction rising within me. Also, I no longer had to worry about Zhangzhen casually bringing up divorce. If he only wanted to have an affair without divorcing, then so be it. I didn't want a divorce either. All I wanted was money. Not much love, just a lot of money. In the evening, when Zhangzhen came back, I casually told him about Wang Feng contacting me. Wang Feng approached me today. She says she's pregnant. He paused, his eyes filled with nervousness and unease. Don't listen to her nonsense. I never wanted this child. I'll handle it. She says you're unwilling to divorce, but you mentioned divorce to me. Zhangzhen's eyes dodged a bit. I was just afraid you would make a scene. Rest assured, in my heart, you and Cece will always come first. I won't divorce you. I smiled bitterly in my heart. My position as the lawful wife was rock solid. Even with mistresses and affairs on the side, they couldn't shake my status. Coldly, I asked, do you really not want this child? Your mom has always wanted a grandchild. After all, it's your own flesh and blood. Can you really bear to? Without a hint of hesitation, he replied, I don't want it. Except for you, I don't want any other woman to have my child. But you can sleep with them, get them pregnant, and not feel an ounce of shame. What's the difference between you and a breeding boar? I mocked him silently. Then, Zhangzhen uttered a sentence that completely shattered my worldview. He said he had wanted to break up with Wang Feng long ago, but she clung to him. He wanted me to help him drive her away after comforting her and getting rid of the child. I chuckled. He couldn't finish dealing with the mistress, yet he dared to think of leaving with his pants up, leaving the cleanup work to me. 3 days later, I was at home watching a drama when my mother-in-law called, saying she had collected some free-range chicken eggs to bring over for me. I was a bit puzzled. This was quite unexpected. This old lady, discontent with my refusal to have a second child, had always harbored resentment toward me. Why would she suddenly drop her pride to bring me eggs? It seemed like something was amiss. As expected, after a few pleasantries, my mother-in-law got straight to the point. Many people are having a second child now, and some even a third. Let's have another one. I don't care if it's a boy or a girl, it can be a companion for Cece. These eggs are laid by the chickens I raised, high in nutritional value. Eat more and nourish yourself well. A touch of gratitude surged within me unwittingly. Unconsciously, my eyes reddened. Mom, I don't want to have another child. Zhangzhen, I have no future. I know you've been wronged. That rascal Zhangzhen, as soon as he has some money, he acts recklessly, just like his useless father. Rest assured, I'll take charge. As long as you're willing to have a child, I'll make him break ties with that woman. It seemed my mother-in-law probably knew about Zhangzhen's affair long before I did. I might be the only one kept in the dark. That saying was indeed right, when a husband cheats, the last one to know is always the wife. Shaking my head, I said, Mom, I can't take the risk of having a child for him now. Take these eggs back. My mother-in-law remained silent, her face turning unusually unpleasant. After a pause, she changed her tone, saying, Since you don't want to have a child, let me be clear. That child Wang Feng is carrying is a boy. He is the bloodline of our old Zhang family. I must have him. I won't let my grandson have no name and no share. If you're unwilling to give birth for our old Zhang family, find someone who is willing. I gasped for a breath. So, the purpose of bringing me eggs and persuading me to have a second child was all for this. Indeed, mother and son were a perfect match. Their roundabout tactics and strategic maneuvers were eerily similar. I sneered and said, "No wonder Mom was so kind to bring me eggs. I can't afford to eat these eggs. Let me make it clear today, don't harbor any hope. I won't divorce, and your son doesn't want to either." Mother-in-law got angry, glaring at me and scolding, "You're talking nonsense. Clearly, it's you holding on to Zhangzhen. Let me tell you, get out. Don't occupy the pit without shitting." I coldly replied, "Yes, I do want to occupy the pit without shitting. Let's see if, without your son's pit, she dares to take a dump." Mother-in-law, infuriated, rushed toward me while shouting, "You wicked woman. How dare you insult my son and grandson? Watch me tear your mouth apart." In terms of hysterics, my mother-in-law was undoubtedly number one. I knew I couldn't match her, and I didn't want to create trouble for myself. I grabbed her arms and dragged her toward the door. "Leave. This house doesn't welcome you. If you don't go, I'll call the police." Although my mother-in-law was almost 70, due to years of physical labor in her youth, she had incredible strength. She shook me off and sat on the ground, wailing, "Come and see, my daughter-in-law is going to kill me. I won't live anymore." Faced with such a mother-in-law, I was truly speechless. I took out my phone and called Zhangzhen. "Where are you? Hurry back, your mom is about to be gone." I turned on the speaker, and Zhangzhen's anxious voice came through, "Mom, don't make a scene. Wang Feng is bleeding heavily now. The hospital's blood bank is empty, and the doctor is contacting a rescue. I can't talk to you now. If there's a loss of life, my life is over." My heart sank instantly. If something happened to Wang Feng, Zhangzhen would be implicated, and our family would be ruined. As soon as she heard the possibility of a life-threatening situation, my mother-in-law's face also changed color. Stammering, she said, "Son, don't be afraid. Nowadays, doctors can handle everything. Just a miscarriage, nothing serious. You wait, Mom will be there soon." After my mother-in-law left, it took me a while to regain my composure. I kept praying silently, hoping that fate would be kind to Wang Feng, ensuring her health and well-being. Ironically, here I was, the original wife, praying for the well-being of my husband's mistress, a true absurdity. 2 hours later, I cautiously called Zhangzhen to learn that Wang Feng had finally overcome the danger. I couldn't help but exhale a long sigh of relief, my palms sweaty. Suddenly, I remembered an important detail and continued questioning Zhangzhen. "Her uterus, is it okay?" Zhangzhen sighed, "It's okay. Her uterus was almost removed, but thankfully, it was preserved." "Thank heavens," I silently murmured. If Wang Feng had lost her uterus, Zhangzhen might never be able to extricate himself from her. It would have been an endless trouble for our family. Zhangzhen mentioned that he would stay at the hospital for a few days to take care of Wang Feng. He asked me to take care of myself and Cici. I marveled at my own transformation. Just a few days ago, I was gritting my teeth against the mistress, and now, I had become so numb to the situation. Perhaps, in the subconscious of a middle-aged woman, nothing compared to the importance of family. On the weekend, when Cici returned from school, she asked when her dad would be back. She hadn't seen him in 2 weeks. My heart felt a pang, almost bringing tears to my eyes. I quickly turned away. "Your dad went out of town for a couple of days. Just focus on your studies. Your dad works hard outside to provide us with a good life." "I know, but, Mom, since I usually stay in the school dorm, don't you feel lonely at home? Have you ever thought about going back to work?" My heart skipped a beat. Going back to work? I hadn't thought about it at all. It had been over a decade since I last worked. At my age, what could I do? Perhaps just wash dishes or scrub floors. After Wang Feng was discharged from the hospital, Zhangzhen told me that once her body recovered a bit, he would sever ties with her and officially return to the family. He expected me to help him with this. I didn't say anything, but in my heart, a decision had already been made. As long as I could preserve this family, keep our money from leaking away, I was willing to swallow this injustice and bury all the humiliation in my memory. One day, while cleaning the house, I received a call from Cici's class teacher. "Mrs. Zhang, could you come to the school this afternoon? Cici's midterm grades have dropped quite a bit." My heart clenched. When I resigned to become a housewife, it was largely to dedicate time to nurture Cici. This child had never disappointed me, consistently ranking at the top of her class. What had gone wrong this time, reaching the point of calling in parents? I hurriedly rushed to the school. The teacher's words left me ashamed and remorseful. "Mrs. Zhang, children nowadays are very sensitive. Problems in their parents' marriage can easily affect them. I hope parents can handle it well, minimizing the harm to the child. My face turned red to my neck. Indeed, there had been some issues in my relationship with Zhangzhen. We were working on repairing it, but I hadn't realized how deeply it had affected Cici. The teacher looked at me and continued. Cici mentioned that she had known about her dad's affair for a long time. Once, she saw her dad coming out of a hotel with a woman. But her mom, Yu, pretended not to know, even covering for him in front of her. I was stunned. I had no idea that a 14-year-old girl was carrying such a heavy emotional burden. The teacher glanced at me and said, Cici also mentioned that last time when her dad went to take care of the woman who had a miscarriage, you lied to her, saying her dad had gone out of town. She saw you pretending to be in pain, reluctant to expose the truth. In reality, it hurt her deeply. Children nowadays are very perceptive. You might think she's still a child, but she understands everything. I felt dazed. I had no recollection of what the teacher said afterward or how I walked out of the teacher's office. The teacher was right, this matter needed closure. It was essential to set things right for Cici's studies and life, minimizing the harm to her. I informed Zhangzhen about the teacher's conversation. He assured me that he would quickly resolve his relationship with Wang Feng, not letting this matter affect Cici any further.